Welcome, fellow bookworms, to Tibra's Den. My name is Whitney, and today I'm going to be starting a vlog. I am really feeling contemporary romance this month, this summer, and so I thought it would be fun to kind of take you guys along with me. I have 12 contemporary romance books. I also have some like romantic-y stuff, but I really want to focus on the contemporary romance for this vlog. This video I want to put up on the 14th. Today is July 2nd. And so I basically have 2 weeks to see how many of these books I can get read. There are 12 of these. I'm also going to be reading other things though while I read these, so that's going to be kind of tricky. I have 4 books that I'm still working on from June that I'm going to keep reading. I'm tandem reading Empire Storms and Tower of Dawn by Sarah J. Maas. So I have like 200 pages, roughly just less than 200 pages in each book that I still need to read. And I'm just taking my time. I'm reading a few chapters each day. I kind of have the list, which I'll leave linked down below. I can't remember the creator right now, but I'll leave it linked down below. And I'm just kind of checking off. So I'm going to keep reading a chunk of those books each day. And then I'm also reading Hidden Nature by Nora Roberts with my husband, and we just read a couple chapters of that at bedtime, so that shouldn't interfere too much. And then I just have a series I'm also completing as well, so we will just have to see how it goes. But yeah, I have 12 books here. I have started one of those because I wanted to read something last night, but I didn't want to read any of my partial books before I talked about them in my wrap up. So I just filmed that. So like I said, I will be continuing those. But I did go ahead and start Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. I wasn't sure what I wanted to read, so I just told my husband to pick a random number, and he picked 5, and this was the 5th book in the lineup, which I only read 40 pages, but I'm really loving this. So this one is the 3rd book in the Love Light Farm series, and we are following Layla and Caleb. And I was so confused when I added this on to my TBR because I was reading the synopsis, and it was like teacher, and I was like, I thought Caleb was a cop, and he was. So I got confused, but he was a cop. He got fired for being too nice, and now he's substitute teaching. So I'm glad I didn't do that. But basically, Layla is the baker. She has a bakery on Love Light Farms. It says, Layla Dupree has given up on love. She's waded through all the fish in the sea, each one more disappointing than the last. Apparently, owning the bakery at Inglewild's most romantic destination does not help one's love life, despite Layla's best efforts. All she wants is a partner who gives her butterflies, not someone who ghosts her at dinner and leaves her with a check. Good thing Caleb Alvarez has a perfect solution. After saving Layla from another date gone bad, he has a simple proposition: 1 month of no strings dating. He'll do his best to renew her faith in men while she rates his romantic game. It's a win-win situation. All the benefits of dating without the added pressure of feelings and unmet expectations. But there's one ingredient they haven't considered. The chemistry between them is red hot, and the urge to take things to the next level is more tempting than Layla's mocha fudge brownies. So I already started this one, so this will be the first one that I read in this vlog, and I'm really, really excited. I'm going to go through the others real quick so you can kind of see what's to come, but I'm not going to read the synopsis on them. As I get to them, I'll tell you what they're about. But this is the first one. The next one I know for sure I'm going to read because I want to read it for 4th of July. I was supposed to read it in June, and I did not get to it. And that's Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Obviously, Red, White, Royal Blue. I think it's perfect for over the 4th. So this one will for sure be getting read. Then we have This is the pick for this month for Autism Reads, which is put on by Christine at An Autistic Reader, linked down below. And I've been wanting to try this author for a very long time, so I'm very excited. And it's Only When It's Us by Chloe Liese. So there's that one. Then we have another one I've been wanting to read for so long, and that is Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. This one just sounds so much fun. I found it in a little free library, and it's called A Spot of Trouble by Teri Wilson. It's loosely based on 101 Dalmatians, and it just sounds like a lot of fun, so I'm looking forward. And it's really short, so I should be able to knock that one out within a day. This one, I'm going to be reading the companion to this at Christmas. It's a Christmas book, so I wanted to read this one, and it just felt summery to me. And it's Mr. Fixer-Upper by Lucy Score. So I'll be reading that one. The next 3 are part of a series. One of them, the first one, is officially on my TBR, and it also works for Kim from Expedition Through Pages, her TBR Trail the Quest game, which I'm on Team Azrae. Mixed Signals also works for that, but this one works for the food on the cover prompt. And that's When in Rome by Sarah Adams. I also have Practice Makes Perfect and Beg, Borrow, and Steal. These 2 aren't as high priority, as long as I at least get the first one read. I'm happy with that, but I want to read the whole series. And then the other one, I found the last one at a thrift store, so I got the other 2, and it's just a perfect summer read, but these are the bottom of the barrel. If I don't have time to get to these, I'm not going to be upset about that at all. But that is the series by Sasha Summers. We have The Sweetest Thing is the first book. Then we have Must Love Bees. And lastly, we have Honey Be Mine. It has obviously a bee theme and like a honey farm theme. And I'm really excited. Like, I just thought this was such a cute book when I found it, and then I realized it was a series, and I was like, I have to get all 3. So, like I said, these ones are the lowest priority, though. If I don't get to these, I'm okay. I want to at least read the 7 books, which I should be able to do in 2 weeks, even with my other reads, but I would love to get to all 9 of the ones I'm really excited about, and then 12 if I can squeeze these in as well. But we'll just have to see how the reading goes. World of Warcraft, which I play with my husband, just released the Panda update, and he's so excited about that. So definitely on the weekends, I'm probably going to be playing that with him, plus editing videos to get them uploaded on Monday, things like that. So we're just going to have to see how it goes. But I'm really excited. Like, I'm just feeling the contemporary romance. Typically, I read them really, really fast. And so, yeah, I got, like I said, Mixed Signals is first off the bat, and then I'll be reading Red, White, and Royal Blue over the holidays, and I will be back with you when I have an update on either one of those. Like I said, I should finish Mixed Signals tonight or tomorrow, so that shouldn't be a problem, and then I'll be able to read Red, White, and Royal Blue over the weekend, but I will be back with you guys in just a moment. Alright, so it is about 8 o'clock on Thursday, July 3rd, and I just finished Mixed Signals by B.K. Borison. I honestly think this one is my favorite of the series. Definitely giving it 5 stars. I just really liked Caleb in particular, and Layla too. Like, I loved both of them together. But Caleb, he's just such a soft boy, and I don't think you get a lot of that in romance, and I just loved it. Like, he's the epitome of the good guy, you know, a good guy. And him and Layla together, I absolutely loved. The conflict, like, the whole premise is that it's kind of like not fake dating, but and like a no strings attached dating arrangement. You know, he's taking her on dates to kind of show her like what dating should be like, because she's just getting horrible guy after horrible guy after horrible guy. I found, you know, I've read several books like that pretty recently, and I found I really kind of like that format. And so he likes her. He's always liked her. She just barely kind of notices him. And but she kind of has trauma, like her family. She doesn't have a good relationship with them. They wanted her to kind of have a different career path. She's not very close with them. And then she just keeps dating guy after guy. That's horrible. And then on his part, like, he never makes it past like a certain like date 4 or whatever, and he very much wears his heart on his sleeve. Maybe comes on a little too strong. And so like he's like maybe, like, we can date, you can see what good dates are like, and you can give me tips and tricks, like things I might be doing wrong. And then kind of the conflict that comes about revolves around obviously the arrangement, and kind of their issues as well. But I really love them together, and I just had a great time with this. I like the small town setting. Um, we get quite a bit of Charlie, who's one of the main characters of the next book in this one, which I thought was a lot of fun. Like, I enjoyed that aspect. There's one scene that just stole my heart. And I just absolutely love that. And not only him showing up for Layla, but her friends in the town and such. Like, just perfect small town. I really like this author's writing style. Even the last book in this series, what is it called? I don't have it where I used to have them. But with Beckett and Evie, even that one, like, I didn't particularly like the conflict. I had issues with that story, but just the writing style, like, it really hits the mark for me, like, as far as vibes and what I'm looking for. So I had a really great time with this. 5 stars, a great start to my 2 weeks of romance. So that was fun. I did also finish. This is the second book in the Elixir series by Hilary Duff, and I finished this last night. And then I read a little bit of this before I went to sleep. And so I finished this one, and it's not really part of this vlog, but I am reading them at the same time. So my plan is to pick up the last book, which is True. This is about 250 pages. The font is huge, and it reads really quickly. It is young adult, and not very complex writing here. So I plan on reading as much of this as I can tonight. And I may or may not switch over to my next book for this vlog tonight, but I will be for sure reading this tomorrow, and that is Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. Of course, I already said that at the beginning of the vlog that I wanted to read this for the 4th. So I'll go ahead and read you guys the synopsis on this one. It says, when his mother became president of the United States, Alex Claremont Diaz was promptly cast as the American equivalent of a young royal. Handsome, charismatic genius, his image is pure millennial marketing gold for the White House. There's only one problem. Alex has a beef with an actual prince, Henry, across the pond. And when the tabloids get a hold of a photo involving an Alex-Henry altercation, U.S.-British relations take a turn for the worse. Heads of family and state and other handlers devise a plan for damage control, stage a truce between the two rivals. What at first begins as a fake Instagrammable friendship grows deeper and more dangerous than either Alex or Henry could have imagined. Soon Alex finds himself hurtling into a secret romance with a surprisingly unstuffy Henry that could derail their presidential campaign and upend 2 nations. It raises the question, can love save the world after all? Where do we find the courage and the power to be the people we are meant to be? And how can we learn to let our true colors shine through? So I'm excited to read this one and give it a go. It's the thickest one, I think, out of the stack. It's like 418 pages. But since it is a romance, I'm hoping it will read quickly. I do want to play World of Warcraft with my husband. I think I already mentioned that as well. The Panda expansion has just come out. I played a little bit yesterday and last night, and he, was off today. He played. I decided to read. I might actually hop on for a little bit before bed, and then kind of just see where the night goes from there. But tomorrow and over the weekend, I do plan on playing. So this book, I'm not worried about, rushing this one. I just want to read it over the weekend and finish it by Monday, and then I can really focus on the other books. Monday's chore day. I tend to do most of the chores on Monday. But then I can definitely dive in the rest of the week and see how much of those other books I can get read. So this one, like I said, I'm planning on just taking my time over the weekend. I definitely want to start it tomorrow, depending on what I do tonight and how this one goes will just depend on if I even attempt to try like a couple chapters at bedtime. Maybe we'll just have to see how it goes. But I'm very happy with how this vlog started with mixed signals, and I'm really looking forward to reading the last one. I'm planning on reading the last one like in October, I think. So it's been fun reading these seasonally, and a very strong start. So that's kind of where we're at. I am gonna go figure out what I'm doing for the next couple hours before bed, and I will be back on when I have an update for you on Red, White, and Royal Blue. So it is the morning of Monday, July 7th. I did finish Red, White, and Royal Blue last night by Casey McQuiston. This one I finished close to bedtime, so I decided, you know what, I'll just wait till tomorrow to talk about it. And this one was kind of very frustrating for me. I loved the characters and the romance in this book. Like, I thought that was really well done, especially because they're long distance. You know, one of them's in England, one of them's in the US. I really, really like that aspect. You do get mixed media, which I wasn't aware, so you do get some text messages and some emails, which I love the emails between these two. Absolutely adored that. There's a lot of heart and emotion. I really liked, like, there's always a third act conflict, and there was still that in there, but the main conflict that kind of tied into the third act conflict you brought up really early on. Especially because Henry is a royal and there's certain expectations and such, where, yeah, there's certain expectations for Alex as well, but not as much as in England in the monarchy, So I really like that aspect and how one of them, Henry, I'll just say Henry, when a problem would arise and such, he would kind of just like go out of contact, and I really liked how it was balanced out, that with Alex's personality, he was like, no, we're communicating, we're talking about this, like, you're not just gonna ghost me and we're not gonna talk about it. And so there wasn't that miscommunication. Like, it could have gone that route, but the author did a really good job with Alex and his personality being like, no, we're talking this out, we're hashing this out, and we're figuring this out. And I loved that. I loved it so much. My problem, which this is a pet peeve of mine, if you've been around my channel, I've mentioned it multiple times. I do not like when contemporary romances, specifically, but any book, I really do not like pop culture references. When it's well placed here and there, that's fine. And like, there was some like historical ones that worked, and I find like historical type pop culture references and whatnot work a little better for me, but I do not like that, and it was heavy in here. And another thing, I've only read one other book that did that, and that was Romantic Comedy by Curtis Sittenfeld, where they reference real life people. Like, they're not characters in the story, but they reference them in the world and such. And mainly it was on the president part. I do not like that, or real social, political type of events. I do not like that. I'm like, I read to escape the real world. Like, contemporary, yes, it takes place in the real world, but like, you don't need to pull real life people and certain like social political climate into the books. And there was social commentary, about LGBTQIA plus rights and such, and how that affects, the different countries and the different leaders and such. And that could have been done without pulling in like specific people and events. And it also, so she references, other than the current president, which, ugh, she does references like Obama and Biden and such, which again, I don't like that. She never references specific royals, but it's very parallel. Like, you have that Henry's father was an actor, and the racial issue and everything like that. Like, there's two sons and a daughter, like, there's parallels there to the real royal family, like, even though nothing's mentioned specifically or anything like that. Like, it's like you can see the parallels there, and I did not like that either. It's like, create your own characters, like, and she did. Like, Henry and Alex are very dynamic and strong characters, and their, situation and everything like that. But so it didn't need those parallels. It didn't need those parallels. It didn't need the references to real life people. Like, yeah, it's just like, oh, I painted from Sasha's pink room to, blue. Like, it doesn't need that. Like, why? It irks me. I find it lazy, because you already have a world that you don't really need to build. You don't need to bring real life people, and it's just irksome, because like, I already see that. Like, that's in my day-to-day life. Like, I don't need it in my book. And you can still have the conversation about social commentary and such without bringing real life into it. It's a book. I want to escape from things going on in real life, And so that really is just irksome to me, and I do find it lazy, just relying on pop culture references and such to really bring the world to life. And this author, the writing is really good. She didn't need to do that. Like, or they, I don't know what their pronouns are. But they didn't need to do that, so it's she. Okay. And so yeah, I'm like, that was unnecessary. Like, why? You're a good writer. You don't need to do that. And it was just frustrating. And I know part of this is because it is, the first son and the Prince of England. Like, and so, like, I get kind of where her mindset was probably at, bringing in this stuff, but I did not like it. And it was almost a 3-star for me because of that. But then the romance, especially the ending, was just so strong. that I was like, okay, I'll bump it up to a 4-star because I really did love these characters. I really did love the romance. I will say also the ending went on too long. You have the conflict, and then there's this other event that still needs to happen, and I get that, but it drug on after the kind of resolution of the final conflict. It drug on just a little bit too long, and I was like, okay, I'm ready for it to wrap up. Like, I'm done. The conflict's been resolved. Like, where's the end? Where's the end? And so it did drag on a little bit in that regard as well. But like, very dynamic characters. I like kind of the social commentary of expectations and tradition, and being true to yourself, and whether you know like you're in a certain position, but at the same time you're a person. And so whether the public gets an opinion on that, they shouldn't have an opinion on that. Like, that's your life. Like, no. And so I really did like it overall. It's just bringing in that real world aspect with the pop culture references and references to real life people and such. I just can't do it. Like, it just irks me. So 4 stars for this one. Like I said, even despite those things that I really, really don't like, I did really love this story. So there is that. I had my husband choose a random number between 1 and 4 because I have 6 books that are the first in the series, or you not first in the series because Mixed Signals is the third in the series, but are single in this list. And then I have 6 books that are 3 and 3, part of a series. I want to just binge read the series. So I just gave him a random number between 1 and 4 to choose one of the single books over there. And he chose number 3, which I didn't know what order I had them in. And that was Mr. Fixer-Upper by Lucy Score. I read 56 pages last night. We went to bed. I read a chapter of the book we're reading together, which is Hidden Nature by Nora Roberts. So I read one chapter of that, and that is romantic suspense. So still romance. And then I jumped into this, and the chapters read really fast. Like, I'm already on chapter 9. And it's just really fast paced. Like, I didn't read for very long and got the 56 pages read, and then I was like, okay, I'm ready for bed. And so, yeah, so far I'm actually really enjoying this. I've heard mixed things on this one, but so far I'm good. Like, we haven't really gotten into anything. It's moving along. The whole premise of this one is you have, it says, it's a constant battle on set between the sexy, grumpy renovation reality star and his no-nonsense film producer. Paige St. James has zero time for temperamental talent, especially flannel-wearing Gannon King, who acts like being in front of the camera is the last thing he wants. Mr. Sex in a Tool Belt has made it his mission to get a rise out of her, but Paige is a master at locking down her temper. After all, they're on the road together, working long hours, renovating homes, and changing lives. When Gannon manages to find his way through the cracks in her professional facade, sparks fly, and hiding it from the cameras is all but impossible. Gannon is infatuated, but Paige knows she won't ever be taken seriously if she's caught sleeping with the star of her show. Except she can't seem to resist those big rough hands, those smoldering hazel eyes, those dimples, the tool belt, that fiercely protective vibe. Too bad it's all about to come crashing down. So, so far they're starting season 2 of the show, and he just thought she was like just a corporate all in it for the money, and he's starting to realize like his perception was wrong all this time. And she's just trying to really make it in this world. But as a woman, she's not taken very seriously. She actually wants to direct, I believe, kind of is the vibe I get from it. But she's building herself up, and she's not taken very seriously as a woman. So I know that's going to come into play. Like I said, like she won't be taken seriously if she does sleep with him. And so far, we've started season 2. And they've gone to a couple houses, and it's just very fast paced. Like, you're just getting snippets. But I'm finding it really enjoyable so far. So today I need to do chores. Monday is my big, like, weekly chore day. where I, do more of my deep cleaning and everything like that. So I have an audiobook I'm listening to for that. I have 9 hours in the audiobook. I want to try to finish it today. So I won't start this until this evening probably. But if I get tired, I might just, do part of the audiobook and then save it, the rest of it, for next week or whatnot. We'll just have to see how it goes. But I am hoping I can finish this tonight. Like I said, it was reading really fast. It's just under 400 pages. It's like 380 something, or 370. Let's see here. Yeah, 378 is the page count. And I'm already 56 pages into that. So just over 320 pages left. And so yeah, I'm hoping, since it does read fast, I can finish it tonight. And that way, the rest of this week, because this video is going out next Monday, the rest of this week I can bust through and see if I can get all the rest of those read. I'm thinking I'm probably not going to get to the last trilogy. I just don't foresee that. But I think I can get through the rest of them. So we'll just have to see. Like, I love how fast contemporary romances read. That's kind of the plan. Chores and listening to my audiobook book, and then jumping into Mr. Fixer-Upper. So I'll be back once I have finished this and have my thoughts on it. So it is about 5 o'clock on Tuesday, July 8th, and I did just finish Mr. Fixer-Upper by Lucy Score. So yesterday was chore day, and after I finished my chores, I still had about 2 hours of my audiobook. So I listened to that throughout the evening, and played World of Warcraft with my husband. And so I didn't get started on this until, well, I had started it the night before, but I didn't continue on with this until bedtime. And I was able to get 100 pages read last night, but then I read the last 200 and so pages today. And I love this. Like, I think out of what I've read so far, this one's definitely my favorite. I did give it 5 stars, and I just had a great time with this. So the whole premise is you have Paige and Gannon. And Paige is the field producer for a reality TV show which finds families that are going through a hard time but have helped others in a way in order to help them and kind of make their house dreams come true. And so I really like that premise. I don't watch those types of shows a whole lot, but I have in the past. Like, sometimes I just go on a binge of watching those types of shows, and they are fun and enjoyable to watch. And so Gannon's kind of Mr. Grumpy. It's him and his twin sister. He doesn't really like filming, but he got into it with his sister in order to save their grandparents' construction or contracting construction business. Because after his grandpa died, it was almost on the verge of bankruptcy. So that's the whole reason he's doing this, and he's just trying to get through enough seasons in order to save the business. And Paige really wants to be a director, and she should have been a director on the show, but of course they gave it to somebody else. And Andy, who's the director, he's a good guy and everything, but it really should have gone to Paige. But because she's female and everything, and so she's very worried. Like, she's trying to be successful. Her mom's kind of on her, doesn't really believe that what she's doing is worthy. Essentially, her mom's like a psychiatrist or something, and her sister's a doctor, and her mom chose career success over her like romantic interest and family. And so her mom's kind of cold and cut off, and so she's working really, really hard to not only be successful. She kind of went against the grain, and we see that same theme in Mixed Signals as well with Layla. We did see that, so that kind of comparison's there. But yeah, so she's just really like trying to stay professional and such. And Gannon originally didn't like her, kind of thought she was just one of the corporate suits, and such. and he's starting to see that she's not. Like, she's really in this for the right reasons. Um, but she's worried a relationship with him will have repercussions. So she's really kind of against it. And I really like the format of this. The first chapters are super fast paced and it's giving you that background without bogging down, which I've seen with like other books where they're trying to give you too much background and it's just kind of bogging it down. I read one recently, I can't think of which one it was, but that kind of did that, and it was like, oh, it was Shipwrecked by Olivia Dade. And that one, it just kind of got bogged down because it spent like 6 years, and it's like, I need the relationship. And so this one did a really good job at giving you the background, because this is their second season of the show. And so it doesn't really talk about give you the background on the first season. It talks about it a little bit, but it's giving you background on the second season, but getting you to the point where they're starting to have a relationship. So I really appreciated that and how fast paced that was. And then you kind of get into the meat of the story. And some of the episodes, like, it references they're on set and it's giving you a little bit, but it's not focusing a lot of time on that until you get to the one episode with Karina and Malia. And so there is trigger warnings for cancer because Malia is like 6, I think, and she has like a rare brain cancer. And so trigger warning for that. And that's where you start to kind of get into the meat of the story. Something happens. I saw a reference before I was reading this of the shower scene, and I really like the shower scene. It's very intimate without being spicy, if that makes sense. So, I mean, you would have to read it to know, but I really like, I was like, okay, now I get it. Now that I read it, I understand the shower scene. And so I love that, and then you're kind of getting into the relationship. The normal third act conflict, like, because there's a normal format, and normally the conflict comes out in the third act, and that's the big thing. You kind of have the conflict throughout, but the big thing that actually happens more towards the middle of the book. And I read a different book that did that same thing, and I really like that because the other book I'm referencing is Plus Size Player by Danielle Allen, and it did that too, where the conflict was kind of already in place, but the big blow up happens more towards the middle, and then you're watching the characters work through it. So instead of towards the end, this big blow up happens and then the reconciliation, you don't get a lot of time there. You're seeing the characters work through it, and I absolutely loved that. I loved how it was formatted, and so you're seeing the characters work through it, which I adored. And then the ending and the way, like, Gannon does something, and you're like, you wanted to shake her because it's like, he's doing that for you. And she's just completely clueless, and I just like, hey, it's for you, it's for you. And just the ending and the way it wraps up, I really like, it really tugged at my heartstrings there as well. And so yeah, I love this. I had a fantastic time with it. And definitely my favorite so far of the books I've read. So there is that. And so yeah, doing pretty good so far. I mean, we got 2 5-stars and a 4-star, so that's not bad at all. I had my husband give me another random number, 1 to 3, and he knows 3 is one of my favorite numbers, so he chose 3 again. And this time it was A Spot of Trouble by Teri Wilson. This is the shortest one out of the books. It's like 245 pages. So it's the shortest. I'm definitely going to be able to read this tonight, which makes me very happy. And this one is kind of inspired or based on 101 Dalmatians. So I think this is going to be a lot of fun. This says, 2 Dalmatians, 1 accidental mix-up, what could go wrong? Violet March and Sam Nash are as different as night and day, and have been enemies ever since Violet accused Sam of dognapping her beloved Dalmatian. Sam knows that would never happen. His well-trained fire safety demonstration dog never steps out of line. Whereas Violet's problematic pooch has never met a command she didn't ignore completely, much like her bubbly owner. Against a backdrop of canine hijinks and a summertime softball league, the two Dalmatian owners constantly butt heads, but by the time the 4th of July fireman's ball rolls around, they begin to realize that sometimes love isn't so clear cut, and a little puppy love might be just the thing they've been missing. So, I'm really looking forward to this. I found this in a little free library and I saw it. I was like, sold. So I hope, I've never heard of this author or anything like that, but I hope this is really enjoyable. I'm hoping I might be able to even read it fully in this evening. I'm pretty focused today. My brain's not as wandery, and maybe start the next book. But I probably won't update you till tomorrow because even if I finish this, it's probably going to be a little later. But yeah, we'll just have to see, or I might just focus on this and then read some of the other books I have ongoing. I'll just have to play it by ear, but I'll definitely be back tomorrow or for you guys in a second to update you on A Spot of Trouble. All right, so it is early morning on Wednesday. What is today? I don't even know. The 9th, I want to say it is. But I did finish A Spot of Trouble by Teri Wilson. I read the majority of this yesterday or last night, and just had 50 pages to finish up this morning, which I've already done. It's about 8 a.m. And I finished this up. And I ended up giving this one 3 stars. I really enjoyed it. It was very cute, very fun. It is clean, so if you are one that doesn't like spice, the most they do is a couple of kisses. And so it's a clean romance and it's just fun. Small town, rivals to lovers. Our main character is a firefighter, Sam. He's a firefighter and he's from Chicago and he ends up coming to the small town because he lost some friends of his and some coworkers of his in a firefighting incident, and so he has trauma from that, and so he comes to the small island town, and there's this big rivalry between the police department and the fire department, and every summer they have this softball tournament, and Violet is the daughter of the police chief. And so there's that, and their first meeting is she thinks he's stealing her dog because there's only one Dalmatian in this town, Turtle Beach, and so she sees him walking off with this Dalmatian that looks exactly like hers, which no, they don't look exactly alike. You're not gonna have a Dalmatian with the exact same spots and everything. So that was part of it too. But so and I can understand the initial, like, oh, he's taking my dog, not expecting that there's another Dalmatian because it's very small. There hasn't been another Dalmatian. He's only been in town for like 12 hours. So she confronts him. Her brothers, her father's police chief, and then her brothers also work for the police department. So she calls them and she's like, and he's trying to tell her, this isn't your dog, this is my dog. So anyway, and her dog is a wreck. And so her dog just standing there all calmly, like, you have to know it's not yours. But that's how they meet. And then she goes to apologize and realizes like that he used to play baseball in college and he could have gone to the big leagues, but he chose firefighting instead. And so now she's like this rivalry and she thinks he knows about it and he came in and he's gonna be a ringer for the fire department. So they're rivals, they're back and forth and everything, and her only friends are like these 3 senior citizens. And she goes and volunteers at the senior citizen center and does yoga and such. And they're kind of meddling. And so they're trying to make situations that put these two together. And they just rub each other the wrong way and just silly shenanigans and such. There's not a lot of development. Violet's mom also died when she was born. Like, she died during childbirth. And so Violet never knew her mom, and her dad doesn't like to talk about her mom. And the whole reason she got a Dalmatian was because her mom had a Dalmatian. So there's also kind of this mystery around her mom. And only 245 pages, so it's very short. So there's not a lot of development there. I like that you kind of had a little bit of like darker theme mental health with him, and a little bit of mystery around her mom, but it just wasn't very well developed, and kind of the big reveal about her mom at the end was very lackluster. I didn't like that. And then I'm obviously a pet owner. Like, I have dogs and cats. I'm definitely more of a dog person. And I worked with animals for a long time, and there's kind of a situation in here that to me, like, the initial mix up, fine, but um, past that, like, how she didn't clue in it was her dog, and the dogs look very much alike, and so everybody's like, you know, they can't tell the difference between their damn dogs, and I'm like, that's not realistic. Like, you would know, even if they were completely identical, which they're not. I'm sorry, they are not identical. Like, and she kind of presented it as that, and I'm like, they're not identical. And even if they were, like, I've worked like with dogs, clients that had dogs that looked pretty much identical, and you learn little tells and such, and you can tell the difference, especially if you're their owner. Like, the difference in your personalities. And so I am going to get a little bit into spoiler territory here as far as what happens. So if you don't want that, just, kind of skip ahead. But they end up, the senior citizens are, trying to get these guys together. So they end up, the one calls them, is like, we need an emergency inspection of our fire sprinklers, like, right now. And so he comes and they're there. Well, they end up, like, it was a fake call just to get him there, right? Well, in order to facilitate it, two of them end up, like, poking at one of the things, and so they get drenched. They end up going to dry off, and they kind of forget about their dogs for a moment. And I could see this, like, the characters don't realize this up until, like, close to the end, right? I could see it right away. The dogs get swapped. The senior citizens swap their collars. And so now all of a sudden her rambunctious, out of control pooch is being super good, and his well trained dog, a working dog, is all of a sudden not. And I'm just like, even initially, okay, they look identical, but their personalities. Like, come on. I'm like, cannot tell me, and like, you love your dog so much and you didn't realize they were swapped. Like, that was just a little bit too outlandish for me, and I did not like it. And so that was frustrating. And then her whole stance on Cinder, because Cinder is a working dog, and so she tries to feed her a piece of cupcake, and he's like, you can't give her that, she's working. Like, you can't give her a treat while she's working. And she gets all, like, upset, like, free Cinder, like, you're just, compares her to Cinderella, and you're just using her. And then he goes on, because Cinder makes his bed in the morning and turns on the coffee. Well, he all of a sudden decides, okay, well, maybe I am using her, so I'll stop that. It's like, but he has the knowledge, like, working dogs in particular, they're very smart. They need jobs. And so, like, he's trying to untrain her, and that just didn't make sense either. And I'm just like, it doesn't make sense. And so when, she stops doing it because she's now Sprinkles, it's a little, oh, well, like, okay, it's my fault because I tried to untrain her. No, that's not the way it works. And he, like, has this, because he uses him to engage with kids and, like, teach them, fire safety. So stop, drop, and roll. You call 911. She barks 9 times. Pause 1, pause 1, which is really cute tricks and such. Stay low and go, like, really cute. And he has this disaster because she doesn't know her. Sprinkles doesn't know the tricks. And so it's like, you wouldn't realize, like, yeah, even if she's having an off day, she wouldn't forget every single command and not do every single command. Like, that's not how it works. And so that was really frustrating to me as a dog person and somebody who's worked with many dogs and has done dog training and such. I'm like, no. And, like, he's a smart guy. He would realize, like, he wouldn't let her get in his head that he's using Cinder as slave labor. They like to do things. Like, they enjoy that. They need that. And so that was really frustrating. But at the end of the day, it was really fun. It was cute. I like the small town environment. There is a second book in the series, and it deals with a different type of dog and everything. And I am interested in potentially picking that up because this was a lot of fun. So even though there was some irksome things, it was cute, it's fun, and also pop culture references. Like, just why? Like, why do contemporary romance authors use it so much? The Dalmatian ones, like the 101 Dalmatian ones, those made sense, okay? Like you know, compares them to Cruella de Vil and such. That makes sense. You know, she was inspired by 101 Dalmatians. Like, it's not really a retelling because it's just more about like there is a scene where they get pulled into the water by their dogs while they're on their bikes, like, and obviously the two Dalmatians, like, obviously it was inspired by 101 Dalmatians, but it's not following like the different plot points. There's no Cruella, there's nobody trying to like dog nap or anything like that, but you see like the inspiration there. And so yeah, I would be interested in picking up the next one. I would be interested in rereading this one, but yeah, the pop culture references, other than the 101 Dalmatians, which was expected. It just is like, why? Why do you people do this? Like, I don't understand. Like, and I know it's a pet peeve of mine, and most people it doesn't bother, but I just like, and like I said, if it's well placed and such, it's fine. But I hate when they use it to kind of like build the world. You know, it's like you don't need to build the world because it's in the real world, but you don't need to do real world things either, you know? Like, I just don't like it. So, anyway, but it was fun. It was cute. I enjoyed myself. And so that's that one. I have two more books that are just singly over there and not me wanting to binge the series. And so I had my husband, I said head or tails, and he chose tails. And so I'm going to be reading next Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. And yeah, this one is one of my priority reads. It is on my game TBR, and I've been wanting to read this for a very, very long time. So I'm very excited to finally get to this. So I know this is very popular on BookTube. I see it frequently on TBRs, but I'll go ahead and read you guys the synopsis. It says a hot one-night stand and an unexpected pregnancy lead a young woman to someone she can depend on. From the viral TikTok author of Next of Kin and Next to You. Winifred Wynne McNulty has always been wildly independent and not one to be coddled for her limb difference. Wynne has spent most of her life trying to prove that she can do it all on her own. With some minor adjustments, she's done just fine. Hooking up at a costume party with the incredible, charming Beau changes everything. Wynne finds herself pregnant and decides to keep the baby. While Beau is surprisingly elated to step up to the plate, Wynne is unsure whether she can handle this new challenge. Together, Wynne and Beau decide to get to know each other as friends and nothing more while they embark on this parenting journey together. But as they both should know by now, life rarely goes according to plan. So I know like a lot of people don't like the unexpected pregnancy trope, but most people, even if they don't particularly like that trope, have seemed to really enjoy this. I think because that's, you know, it's right up front. Like, it's not a surprise or anything like that. It's right up front. That's the basis for the story, and I think it's really well done from what I've heard. So I don't mind. I don't mind that trope. I think it's realistic. It happens, you know. So I don't mind that trope at all. But I'm really looking forward to this. So I'm planning on. I didn't sleep very well last night. Um, the last couple nights, honestly. The other night I had a dream about rattlesnakes. I went to go visit, in my dream, obviously. I went to go visit my grandparents, and their yard was just covered in rattlesnakes. And my uncle was with me, and he's just like, no big deal. He's picking up rattlesnakes and throwing them out of the way. And I'm like, they're rattlesnakes, like freaking out. Like, this is not okay. And then my uncle gets bit, and so then all of a sudden, my grandpa, he doesn't drive anymore, but he's driving us to take my uncle to the hospital. And in the vehicle, there's like a snake around my grandpa's shoulders, a rattlesnake. And then in the back, there's two rattlesnakes mating with me and my uncle sitting there, like in between us. And my uncle's like, oh, it's so fine, which does fit my uncle's personality. But anyway, so that was my dream, like, not last night, but the night before. And last night I just didn't sleep well. And so I kind of needed me a pick-me-up. So I'm going to run into town and get some breakfast and a coffee from town. We don't have anything like great, so I do like McDonald's iced coffee though. So that's where I'm gonna go. We call it McBarf here at our house, but I'm gonna go run and do that, and then I'm gonna tuck in for the day. All I have planned today as far as chores is laundry, because I already did most of the chores on Monday, and we haven't cooked the last 2 nights, so I don't really have any dishes or anything. So I'm gonna go get me some breakfast, and then I'm gonna come home, tuck into this. I'm hoping I fly through this. It's just over, it's almost 350 pages, and so I'm hoping I can fly through this and then start the last single one I have over there. And I am very hopeful because it's Wednesday, and so I'm very hopeful that I'll at least be able to read one of the trilogies that I want to. I think I'll be able to get that done. And like I said, we'll just have to see about the last one. I'm not too fussed about that, but I would like to read them if I can. So that's the plan, and I will be back with my thoughts on this once I finish it. So, all right. So it is the morning of, I don't even know, the 10th, I think, Thursday. And I did finish Out on a Limb this morning by Hannah Bonam-Young. And this one, I almost, it went through a range. I almost was going to give it a 3-star in the beginning. Like, that's where it kind of sat for me. But the ending, I just love the ending so much. And so it's going to hit a 4-star for me. Now, I know I've been on a rant in this video about pop culture references and such. And this author did use pop culture references. It got a little overboard at points, but she didn't really rely on them. Like, I think a lot of times the contemporary romance authors and such, just contemporary in general, use pop culture references to kind of paint a picture, where this author never did that. So why there was a few that was like, those were unnecessary, they kind of got under my skin. For the most part, most of them actually hit for me and I actually enjoyed them. There was one Avril Lavigne one that really worked for me, but I liked how this author did it because she didn't rely on it to paint a picture. She might put it in there because the character, especially like the musical references to certain artists and such, that was a big part of the story and Beau's connection to his mom. So it made sense for those to be there. There's the Halloween, like the Monster Mash, and her friends were from the Princess Bride characters. And so I really like, it worked. It worked for the context of the story. The author didn't rely on it to paint a picture. Like, a lot of times she would do it and then kind of explain what it was, not relying on that to explain something. And that's what I appreciated about this one with the pop culture references. Like, some of them just hit too. They were just funny. And so I really liked the way it was done in this particular book, even though I'm not a pop culture reference fan. It's just, like I said, there was one point she could have done, actually a couple points, when she's describing Beau's hairstyle and when she's kind of talking about the 90s. She could have thrown in a pop culture reference there, and she doesn't, because Beau, she's like a boy band, 90s boy band style hair, and she could have done like, Backstreet Boys or NSYNC or whatever, or reference a specific one of those members of the band, and she didn't do that. She just said that, and then it described how it looked. And I really, really appreciated that. And so, yeah, this one had pop culture references, and that's not what dropped it down. What dropped this down for me was actually the banter, and I like banter. And there is a lot of heavier topics in this book, and I understand why the author used the lightheartedness and the banter and such. It just got, oh, she used it too much. It was over the top, I think. And like, they would have serious conversations and then immediately joke. And I get some people do that, but it just kind of like ruined that connection for me. Like, I wanted those deep conversation moments without that banter. And it wasn't just our main characters, it was also their friends. And so it was like all the characters were having like this ridiculous witty banter all the time. And so it was a little bit overkill for me, and that's actually what dropped it down. And it was a lot worse in the beginning. The story does smooth out, and the second half of the story honestly would have been 5 stars for me. I really, really love the conversations about disability and mental health rep and everything like that. Family, and relationship trauma, I really, really like that. And not getting those serious conversations without the banter, the jokes thrown in, really weakened that for me. But it does smooth out a little bit towards the end, and I loved how it never had big dramatic moments or fallouts. There's conflict, and these two are strangers, like they had a one night stand, um, and though they're having to get to know each other, but there's never that big fallout or that big conflict. Wynn is working on her own like past relationship trauma. And so, they're having to work through that because she wants to keep it strictly friends, and work towards getting to know each other, being friends, so they can co-parent this baby together. Um, so she does have some relationship trauma she's working through, but there was never like that big fallout, and he was very respectful of her, and not trying to push her or anything, respecting her boundaries, but being there for her too. And it was so nice to read. There was never that big dramatic moment or anything. It's just the conflict they were working through was getting to know each other as people and some of their own past issues and insecurities and such that they were having to work for. That was the conflict. There was never a third act, big blow up or anything like that. And so you never had that fallout, and that's very, very rare in a romance book. There's always kind of that big blow up and then they reconcile. And I really love that for this. You're just seeing how their relationship progress and how they grow together. Why she's she's growing a baby, and it's just I loved how this was done. So it would have been a 5 stars if it wasn't for that banter and, like I said, some of the pop culture references was one step too far. But a lot of them worked, and yeah, I loved how this was done. But because of the overtop banter, it is sitting at a 4 star for me. Um, because I like that emotion and that heart, and I just didn't get that from here. And shame because such good heavy things that were in here. Um, I mean, not a shame. Like, it's not a shame that the author didn't make me cry, but I was just looking for a little bit more heart, a little bit more serious conversations without it being ruined by banter. So I love this though, and I can see why it's so beloved, and the way the approach to the pregnancy was done. I can see why people who don't normally like that trope do like this book. Like, it is very well done. And so yeah, 4 stars for me. So that is that. I only have one book. I was kind of debating on whether I wanted to switch over to the one series well, there's 2 series over there, but one of them in particular I'm really excited about, and I was like, I kind of want to just dive into that. But I decided I'm going to stick with my original plan, and so I only have one book left that is just, over there by itself. And this is the first book in the Bergman Brother series. And Only When It's Us by Chloe Liese, who is an autistic author. So that's exciting. This book's actually the pick this month for Autism Reads, which is put on by Christine and an Autistic Reader. Channel will definitely be linked down below. I haven't been doing very well at reading the Autism Reads selections this year. I've just been having trouble. I've been getting them, but I just haven't been reading them. But this one does fit in for this vlog, and I am very interested in it. It is kind of an extra book for me on this month's TBR, but you know what? We're just going to go with it. So this one says, 2 frenemies, one disastrous prank. Ryder, ever since she sat next to me in class, gave me death eyes. Willa Sutter's been on my shit list. Why she hates me, I don't know. What I do know is that Willa's the kind of chaos I don't need in my tidy life. She's the next generation of women's soccer. Wild hair, wilder eyes, bee-stung lips that should be illegal, and a temper that makes the devil seem friendly. She's a thorn in my side, a menacing, cantankerous pain in the ass who's turned our business mathematics course into a goddamn gladiator arena. I'll leave this war zone unscathed, coming out on top. And if I have my way with that crazy-haired, ball-busting hellion, that will be in more than one sense of the word. Willa. Rather than give me the lecture notes I miss like every other instructor I've had, my asshole professor tells me to get them from the silent, surly, flannel-wearing mountain man sitting next to me in class. Well, I tried, and what did I get from Ryder Bergman? Ignored. What a complete lumbersexual Neanderthal. Mangy beard and mangier hair, frayed bald cap that hides his eyes, and a stubborn refusal to acknowledge my existence. I battled men before, but with Ryder it's war. I'll get those notes and crack that Sasquatch nut if it's the last thing I do. Then I'll have him at my mercy. Victory will never have tasted so sweet. So, anyway, I'm excited. I've been wanting to try this author for a while. And yeah, I'm excited to finally give it a go. It's 357 pages, which is the exact same amount as Out on a Limb, but this one just feels like more of a brick to me for whatever reason. I think the papers are a little thicker than that one, but yeah, it just seems more intimidating, more like a little brick. But I'm excited to give this a go. I'm hoping I can get this read. I've been having actually fairly good focus with my reads, and I think it's because I do have that deadline and that end mark. Um, so yeah, hopefully I can focus today and get this read. I don't have many chores; I just have dishes, and so my plan is just to kind of do this for the day. When I need a break, then I'll go ahead and do dishes and such. And then come back to it is kind of what I'm thinking, because normally I do kind of lose focus like late afternoon. So we'll have to see how it goes. But you guys know the drill by now. I'll be back on when I have my thoughts on this one. Okay, so it is about 8 the evening of Friday the 11th, and I just finished Only When It's Us by Chloe Liese. I read 145 pages last night, and then today I read the last 212 pages. So this one I'm gonna be giving a 4-star. And I couldn't figure out, like, I really like the writing, I really like the characters, and I think my problem with this one, there were pop culture references, but they weren't obnoxious and they weren't a ton of them. They were pretty mild, like she referred to her heart as a Grinch heart, a couple Harry Potter references thrown in there, but there wasn't a whole lot of pop culture reference, and they weren't, like I said, obnoxious or anything like that. So that's not why it got dropped down for me. My problem with this one is, so it deals with a lot of disability rep, just like Out on a Limb did. In this case, Ryder is deaf, and it's fairly recent. His dad has a prosthesis, and it also definitely trigger warnings for cancer and loss of a parent. That's a big part of this. My problem with this one is I think the author leaned too hard to the frenemies direction. And while, like, this one was full on banter constantly, and every serious conversation, had the banter, in this case, you got that heart and that depth of the serious topics that were going on. But I just felt like the relationship throughout the whole book never progressed. Um, Anything serious that came up and any serious conversations weren't really with each other. Anything they found out about what the other person was dealing with was kind of secondhand. Like they either learned it through another channel or whatnot, where they never really talked it out. And so, yeah, they had some more serious moments, especially regarding Ryder. He was a little bit more open than Willa. but they never really talked about things with each other. And Willow is very cut off, and that's kind of her thing. But you never saw that progression, like there, and you don't even get a lot of like. You do get tension, but there's not a lot of like spice or anything, which is fine. Like I'm totally fine with no spice at all, but like you don't really see a progression in their relationship at all until like the last 50 pages. And I do not mind a slow burn. Like, I'm not saying, like, oh, I hate slow burn or anything like that. I don't mind a slow burn, but I need that progression. And you don't see it. It's very, like, their relationship stays the same throughout the whole thing. And every time, you know, it tries to take it a little bit further, have a conversation, well, it just shuts down. And you kind of understand why, but I just wanted to see that progression a little bit, even with like her issues obviously caused the conflict. I mean, Ryder has his own stuff going on, but he's pretty steady. And so it's mainly her issues, and that's what's causing conflict, but you don't see any progression or any growth there until the last 50 pages. And then you just get like a bunch of sexy scenes all at once, and like, oh, I love you, and the last part was way too long. Like, those last 50 pages, I'm like, okay, you couldn't give me a little bit more of this in between. Like, I don't want to read, you know, scene after scene after scene of them just getting it on. And so, like, that's kind of where it dropped off. Like, I needed to see more progression there. And Willa does, like, she just kind of hunkers down, and you understand why, you know, like I said, and you do see vulnerability with her and whatnot. But yeah, I needed a little bit more progression and growth throughout the story, not just all of a sudden at the end and it's just scene after scene after scene of the spicy stuff. Like, no. So that's why it dropped down to 4 stars for me. But I would be interested in continuing this series. Like, it's not a series I didn't absolutely love it, obviously. Otherwise, it would have been a 5-star. But I can see myself continuing this series. And we don't get a whole lot of the other brothers. Like, you get them a little bit, but not a whole lot. And honestly, for as much as these people love soccer, you don't get a whole lot of the sport either. Like, it's mainly them in college and bantering back and forth. Then, you know, you get a few scenes of her playing the sport and such. But yeah, I would be interested in continuing the series, but it's not one like I'm dying to continue either. And so yeah, 4 stars there. And so yeah, it's Friday now. I'm definitely going to be starting When in Rome tonight by Sarah Adams. And I think I kind of went back and forth. I was really in a contemporary romance mood, and I'm still very excited for these 3. So we have When in Rome, Practice Makes Perfect, and Beg, Borrow, or Steal. And I think I'm just going to read these this weekend. And as much as I wanted to read these this summer, I think I'm just going to put these back on my shelf for now. If I have extra time in August and I'm feeling romance, I might go ahead and read these. This is by Sasha Summers. It's The Sweetest Thing, Must Love Bees, and Honey Be Mine. But I'm just feeling myself. I'm ready to move on to different genres and such. I loved, like I said, this really hit the mark because I was very much in a contemporary romance mood. But I only have the weekend left, and then this video is going up on Monday anyway. And so these ones are, like I said, just going to go back on my shelf. Might read them in August if I have time. Otherwise, they'll probably just be ones ready for me next summer. It was just, you know, one of them was a thrift store find, and when I learned there was more, I was like, ooh, I want to get the whole series. But I'm more excited about this series by Sarah Adams. And I think I can complete this weekend because they're all just over 300 pages, I think. So, yeah, this one's 305. 315. So yeah, they're not terribly long. This one like is the longest. Like 360 pages maybe. A little over that because it looks like there was an epilogue that I missed. So yeah, so this is what I'm going to be working on this weekend. I'm just going to see how much I get read. I'm probably going to play World of Warcraft with my husband this weekend. So I'll just kind of see how it goes. But I'm definitely ready to tuck into When in Rome tonight. I think I'm just going to read, and then I will pop back on one more time, give you my thoughts on all three of these or whatever I get read from these. But in this first one, you have opposites certainly attract for a stranded pop star and a small town baker in this charming slice of romance from Sarah Adams. Amelia Rose, known as Ray Rose to her adoring fans, is burned out from years of maintaining her Princess of Pop image. Inspired by her favorite Audrey Hepburn film, Robin Holiday, she drives off in the middle of the night for a break in Rome, Kentucky, that is. When Noah Walker finds Amelia on his front lawn in her broken down car, he makes it clear he doesn't have the time or patience for celebrity problems. He's too busy running the pie shop his grandmother left him and reminding his nosy but lovable neighbors to mind their own damn business. Despite his better judgment, he lets her stay in his guest room, but only until her car is fixed. Then she's on her own. But Noah starts to see a different side of Ray Rose. He sees the real Amelia, kind-hearted and goofy, yet lonely from years in the public eye. He can't help but get close to her. Soon she'll have to return to her glamorous life on tour, but until then, Noah will show Amelia all the charming, small-town experiences she's been missing, and she'll help him open his heart to more. Amelia can't resist falling for the cozy town and her grumpy tour guide, but even Audrey had to leave Rome eventually. So obviously I'm expecting, some pop culture references in terms of Audrey Hepburn and the Roman holiday. But I'm a little bit nervous that there's gonna be more, so fingers crossed that there's not. And then in Practice Makes Perfect, this one, you have Annie Walker is on a quest to find her perfect match. Someone who complements her happy, quiet life running the local flower shop in Rome, Kentucky. But finding her dream man may be harder than Annie imagined. Everyone knows everyone in her hometown, and the dating prospects are getting fewer by the day. After she overhears her latest date, she is so unbelievably boring, Annie starts to think the problem might be her. Is it too late to become flirtatious and fun like the leading ladies in her favorite romance movies? Maybe she only needs a little practice, and Annie has the perfect person in mind to be her tutor, Will Griffin. Will, the sexy, tattooed, and absolutely gorgeous bodyguard, is temporarily back in Rome, providing security for Amelia Rose as excitement builds for her upcoming marriage to Noah, Annie's brother. He has one personal objective while on the job: stay away from Annie Walker and any other possible attachments to this sleepy town. But no sooner than he gets settled, Will finds himself tasked with helping Annie find the love of her life by becoming the next leading lady of Rome, Kentucky. Will wants no part in changing the sweet and lovely Annie. He knows for a fact that some stuffy, straight-laced guy won't make her happy, but he doesn't have the heart to say no. Amid steamy practice dates and strictly educational tutoring lessons, Annie discovers there are more layers to Will than his usual stoic attitude. As the line of their friendship becomes dangerously blurred, Annie reconsiders her dream guy. Maybe her love life doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be real. So, these all sound up my alley, other than I'm really worried about the pop culture reference. And then the last one is Beg, Borrow, or Steal. I actually found this in a little free library, and I had already been interested in When in Rome for a while. So when I found this in a little free library, of course I had to get the other two. And so yeah, I'm excited to get this. And I found it when it came out, it was brand spanking new. So that was fun. It was a fun find. In this one, you have Emily Walker. Hates having her carefully crafted world disrupted by anyone, most of all her legendary nemesis, Jack Bennett. He's the opposite of the wonderful hero she dreams up in her double life as a romance writer, which is why Emily was perfectly happy when Jack left Rome, Kentucky mid-school year with his fiancée. The last thing Emily saw coming was Jack's return at the start of the summer after calling off the wedding and ending his relationship, but he's here to stay as her colleague and her neighbor. Jack is glad to be back, eager to renovate his house and work on the next mystery novel under his best-selling pen name. But when he realizes he's now neighbors with the one woman who has always pushed his buttons, he discovers something he's even more excited about: thwarting Emily and her petty plans to sabotage his return. With their chemistry-fueled animosity at an all-time high, Emily accidentally sends an email to their school's principal that could reveal her secret literary side hustle. She needs to steal back her manuscript, and Jack, she hates to admit, is just a man to help her. Surprisingly, he agrees. Will their unlikely alliance put an end to their rivalry, or could it lead to a steamy plot twist they never saw coming? So, Yeah, I'm excited to read these. I've never read Sarah Adams before, but I think this is When in Rome has been one I've been interested in a while. And so I'm really excited to give these all a go. So that's what I'm going to be doing this weekend. And like I said, I will be back one more time to give my thoughts on these and kind of wrap up my overall thoughts on this reading vlog. Sorry, cannot speak. But yeah, I mean, so far it's been pretty successful. I think I've had two 5 stars, 3 4 stars, and one 3 star. So we'll see where these land. I'm hoping for 5 stars, but like I said, depending on whether the pop culture references are heavy in this, it might be more of a 4 or 3 stars. So we'll just have to see, and I will be back in just a moment. Okay, so I have just finished When in Rome by Sarah Adams this morning. It is the morning of Sunday, July 13th. This video is supposed to come out tomorrow. I was planning on reading for the rest of the day, but I just kind of wanted to take my time with this. And so, like I said, I just kind of finished it up this morning. I love this so much. I had such a great time with this book. I was worried about the pop culture references going in, and they were definitely there. I hated them. Most of them were unnecessary and just kind of got under my skin. There is reference, like she references, that she went to Harry Styles' party and such. And I hate when the references that the characters know real people in real life. I don't like that. But I just love the story so much. So I would really wavered back and forth whether I wanted to give it 5 stars or 4 stars, because normally if there's something I don't like, it's not a 5 star, But I just love these characters. I love the town and the setting and the relationship and everything so much. Like, I had to go with 5 stars on this, even though I did not like those pop culture references. And the author, there was a few, and obviously the Audrey Hepburn, she references, like, he likes Frank Sinatra and some, like, other classic music singers and such. Not classic, but older generation music singers. And that worked for the story. It fit the story, it fit the vibes. But like the Frozen reference and Harry Styles and Jimmy Fallon, and like, I hate that. I hate it so much. But like I said, there's just something like the writing. Like, if that was taken out, this would have been the perfect story for me. Like, it hit everything. It's closed doors, so you don't get any like explicit scenes or anything like that. And it really is, I mean, it's fast time wise, but for the story itself, it's more of a slow burn, because they know she needs to leave. She's a pop star. Like, she has this tour coming up. She needs to leave. He's staying. He has past trauma from a different relationship. He has family that he needs to take care of here and such. And so that was the conflict. And so they really hold each other at arm's length throughout most of the story. And but you get those emotions, you get those moments, and you see the growth, which I had some problems with the others, like as far as like the pacing and the growth of the relationship. You see that here, even though you're not getting those romantic interludes. Like, you get a few kisses and whatnot, but I love this. I love this so much. So I'm gonna give it a 5 star, in spite of those pop culture references and referencing real people, like the character know them. I do not like that. So it's still a 5 star for me. I'm not gonna read the other two. I cannot wait to read these. Like, I love that so much. I'm really looking forward to getting into these. I was confused because I thought this was a trilogy. And then I started reading and I'm like, he has 3 sisters, so surely that means there's 4 books. And there is. The 4th book comes out in January. So I'm excited to read all of these, and I'm really excited for the next one because this is Annie, and she was my favorite of the sisters. And then we don't really meet Will too much in this one. Like, he shows up at the end, but you don't really meet him anyway. And so I'm excited to get to know him. and I loved Annie, so I'm really looking forward to this one. And then this one is Emily, so that's going to be fun as well. And then the last one that's coming out in January is Madison, and it's brother's best friend, so it has James, and I really like James as a character as well. So I'm not going to read these. This vlog is wrapping up. I might read Practice Makes Perfect towards the end of this month. I'm ready to move over to some of my other reads. You know, this was a lot. I read 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 contemporary romances for this vlog, and that's a lot to read right in a row. But I'm highly looking forward to these. And then these three, excuse me, my nose has a tickle. By Sasha Summers. These are just going to go back on my shelves probably for next year, and I'll read these next year. They were very low priority anyway, and I have so many others I want to focus on. And so, yeah, these are going back on my shelves. These may not get read this month, but will get read very soon. So let's kind of recap the books I did read. We'll start at the top, and it's funny because I love B.K. Borison, that small town and the characters and such. Really hits the vibe, even if I don't necessarily always love the writing. This was like 1,000 times better, even though I love this. Like this, I think the balance in this one between the town and the other side characters and such, and our main characters, was a little bit better in this. That's one thing that I don't love, is like the balance kind of feels off. So yeah, you get some scenes with the other characters, but they're not balanced in there very well. But I do love B.K. Borison, and so this was the first one we read. And you do have, you know, bakers in both. He bakes pies, and then she just generally has a bake shop. So, but I really liked Caleb in this one. It was like ultimate good guy vibes. And yeah, I love B.K. Borison's writing, even when I don't like it, just hits something. It hits what I'm looking for. And so this one got 5 stars. Then we had Red, White, and Royal Blue by Casey McQuiston. This one I gave 4 stars. And again, you had a lot of pop culture references and references to real life people, which I don't like. I did love the romance and the relationship in this one. And again, you kind of have that star-crossed lovers, like how are they going to make it work? They're, you know, 2 different worlds and such. But I really did love this if it wasn't for those pop culture references and such. And so that got 4 stars for me. Then we had Mr. Fixer Upper by Liese Score. I love this, 5 stars. I believe this one didn't have too many pop culture references, if any. And I just really like the, you know, home renovations setting, and just like their struggle, and you know, her wanting to be professional and such, but their attraction to each other and whatnot. I really love this, and that shower scene was very good. Then we had our only 3-star, and that was A Spot of Trouble by Teri Wilson. This was really, really cute. I really had a great time with it. But yeah, just there was pop culture references again, and some of the dog stuff was a bit much. Not me being a dog person and having worked with animals and such, and I found it a little bit ridiculous, you know, as far as like they didn't know their dogs. That was a bit much for me, but I still had a really good time. And this is a clean romance, so that was nice. Then we had Out on a Limb by Hannah Bonam-Young. This one I gave 4 stars. I really liked the disability rep, and I liked how, again, in this one, you don't have like that big conflict. It's just them trying to figure things out, and I really enjoyed that. So the conflict's kind of throughout instead of like a big conflict. And this one, it was the banter that dropped it down for me. It was just too over the top. And I didn't get the depth. You're dealing with heavier topics, and I wanted a little bit more depth and emotion there. And because of the banter and the back and forth, you just didn't get that from that one. Then we had Only When It's Us by Chloe Liese. Again, great disability rep. July is Disability Pride Month, so I'm glad I got these 2 read. And this one, the frenemies aspect went a little too far, and you never see that growth in the relationship. It's just kind of flatlined until the very end. And then you get like spicy scene, spicy scene, spicy scene, and I didn't like that. But I really liked the representation and I liked the characters. This one, again, the balance with the family wasn't the greatest. Like, yeah, you get that family and like the side characters and such, but I don't feel like the balance was great with them and the main characters. So, but I had a really great time. I do plan on continuing the series. It's not a high priority, not like the When in Rome series. So there's that one. And then of course, lastly, we read When in Rome, and I just talked about this. Loved, loved, loved this. My favorite out of, let's just do the 5 stars. I think my favorite is gonna be When in Rome, even with the pop culture references and the references to knowing real people. This has got to be my favorite. I loved everything about this. Then Mr. Fixer Upper, and then Mixed Signals. As much as I love BK Borison's writing, like I see the flaws after reading these two for sure. So still love BK Borison's writing. Still, got the last one up there and plan on getting the new release when it comes out. But those are the order for those. And then as far as these go, I would have to say, I think Red, White, and Royal Blue, then Out on a Limb, and then Only When It's Us. Well, no, I think Only When It's Us before Out on a Limb, honestly. And so yeah, Red, White, and Royal Blue, Only When It's Us, and then Out on a Limb. And so yeah, that's kind of the lineup here. Let's get them all up together so you can kind of see. And so yeah, that's how I'm feeling with When in Rome as my favorite, and then A Spot of Trouble as my least favorite. But I really like these, and When in Rome is a closed door romance. I don't know if I said that or not. And so you never get anything explicit or anything like that. So this was really fun. I'm glad I started my month off with these books. It definitely hit what I was looking for. I just was really in the contemporary romance mood, even knowing contemporary romance leans on pop culture references, and that's not my favorite thing. That's the mood I was in, and I'm so glad I read all of these books. I am ready to move on to some of my other genres that I have over there. I do have like some fantasy romance and such, so I'm still going to be continuing on the romance train, just with not contemporary. And I have some other books over there that I'm looking forward to reading the second half of the month, which of course I'll talk about all of them in my wrap up. And I can't wait to continue on with the Run to Rome series, but that's a wrap for this video. And I would love to know if you've read any of these books, if you're interested in reading any of these books now that I've talked about them. If you have any contemporary romance books that you might think I like, especially ones that don't have pop culture references, because I find that it's very hard to find ones that don't have pop culture references, or ones that are obnoxious about it anyway. I would love to know that down in the comments below. If you just want to let me know you're here and you're helping to support the channel by commenting, you can always leave a rabbit or any type of animal emoji, or since we had a lot of baking in these books, you could leave like a baked good maybe in the comments. But I'm going to go ahead and leave you guys here. Happy reading, everyone. Bye.